Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into intermittent fasting. You've probably heard about it, right? It's this eating pattern a ton of people say has totally transformed their health. But what's the real science behind it all?
So, here's what we're going to cover. First, we'll break down what it actually is. Then, we'll get into the nitty-gritty science of why it works. We'll look at the benefits, how you can get started, and, super important, we'll wrap up with a little reality check.
All right, first things first. What is this thing that has so many people talking? Let's get right into it.
Yeah, so check this out. Our source material kicks off with a really powerful personal story from Margarita, who's a nutritional cooking consultant. For her, fasting wasn't just about losing a few pounds. It was the thing that helped her smash through those stubborn health goals, get rid of belly fat, and get this. It gave her a huge boost in energy and mental clarity.
Okay, so this is the absolute key takeaway. Intermittent fasting, or IF, isn't your typical diet. We're not talking about counting calories or cutting out carbs here. Nope. It's all about when you eat, not necessarily what you eat. It's basically an eating schedule that cycles between eating and, well, not eating. All right, now for the super fascinating part, the science. Let's pull back the curtain and see what's actually happening inside our bodies when we do this. Why does this simple change in timing have such a big impact? It really comes down to hormones.
So, let's talk about the main player on the field, insulin. You can think of insulin like a key, or maybe a traffic cop for your blood sugar. Every time you eat, your body releases it to move sugar, that's glucose, out of your blood and into your cells for energy. Now, you might hear a couple of terms thrown around and it's easy to get them mixed up. So with insulin resistance, it's like your cells are starting to ignore insulin's instructions. They're just not listening anymore. With diabetes, on the other hand, the body itself often isn't making enough insulin to begin with. Two different problems, right?
And this is where fasting enters the picture. When you give your body a break from constantly eating, your insulin levels naturally drop. That pause gives your cells a chance to, reset. They become more sensitive to insulin again. I love the analogy our source uses. It's like oiling a rusty lock. All of a sudden, the key just works better. So what happens when your body's main fuel, that glucose, starts to run out? Well, usually after about 12 hours or so, your body does something incredibly smart. It flips a switch. It goes, okay, plan A is out, time for plan B. It starts breaking down your stored body fat, that's a process called lipolysis, and turns that fat into a super efficient alternative fuel called ketones. And get this, it's not just about insulin. Fasting also triggers a release of some other hormonal superstars. Human growth hormone, for example, can shoot up by as much as 5 times. This helps you burn fat while holding on to muscle. And then your nervous system releases something called norepinephrine. Think of it like a shot of natural espresso that sharpens your focus and revs up your metabolism. Okay, so we've got these major hormonal shifts happening behind the scenes. Now, let's zoom out and look at the bigger picture. What are the proven, research-backed benefits for both our bodies and our brains? Well, to answer that, our source brings up a really significant study from 2019, and it wasn't a small one either. We're talking about over 1,400 people who did medically supervised fasts that lasted anywhere from 4 to 21 days. Okay, hold on. A huge disclaimer here, and our source is super clear about this. Please do not go and stop eating for 5 or 20 days because you saw this. This was a controlled scientific study. They were just collecting data to see what happens to the body. It is absolutely not a how-to guide. So what did they find in that study? The results were pretty amazing, actually. People saw big improvements across the board: lower blood pressure, better cholesterol, less inflammation, and of course, weight loss. But what I find really cool is that they also just felt better, reporting a boost in their physical and emotional well-being. And the perks don't stop at the neck. It turns out fasting is great for your brain. It boosts a protein called BDNF, which is kind of like fertilizer for your brain cells. It helps them grow and protects them. This, plus the fact that your brain is running on those super clean ketones we talked about, well, that's likely the reason so many people report that feeling of incredible mental clarity. Oh, and we can't forget about your gut. Think about it. Your digestive system is working all the time. Fasting finally gives it a much-needed break, some time off to rest and repair. This can lead to less bloating and inflammation, and it can help create a healthier, more diverse gut microbiome, which we now know is just crucial for pretty much everything. Okay, so the science sounds pretty compelling, right? The big question then is, how do you actually start? If you're curious, the source material lays out a really simple, step-by-step way to ease into it. And the number one rule here is start slow, let your body get used to it. For the first week or two, you could try what's called a 12-12 split. That's 12 hours of fasting, which honestly, for most of us, just means not snacking after dinner. Easy enough, right? Then you can slowly push that to a 14-hour fast, and eventually you might land on the popular 16-8 method, which a lot of people find to be the sweet spot. And I really want to double down on this point because our source makes a big deal about it. If you just jump into a really long fast from day one, you're probably going to feel miserable and just give up. By easing into it, you give your body and your daily routine time to adjust. It makes the whole thing so much more manageable and, most importantly, sustainable.
All right, we're almost at the end. But before we wrap up, it is so important that we put all of this into the right context.
And here's the bottom line. Intermittent fasting is an incredibly powerful tool, but it's not a magic bullet. It doesn't give you a green light to just eat whatever you want during your eating window. The benefits really get amplified when you combine the timing of your eating with high-quality food choices. And this, right here, is probably the single most important message in this whole explainer. Think of this as information, not advice. Any big change to your health routine, especially something like this, needs to be a conversation between you and your doctor. They can help you figure out if it's a safe and smart approach for your specific situation. So, we'll leave you with this final thought to chew on. Is intermittent fasting the right tool for your personal wellness journey? Thanks so much for joining us on The Explainer.